Well, good afternoon, everybody. I kindly welcome all of you who decided to join our Sano seminar today. Well, today our speaker is Kuba Chrobocinski. Kuba Chrobocinski is a PhD student at Sano. We have Kuba with us since October 2022, so it will be more than 1 year and a half. And before that, Kuba was a student at the AGH University in Krakow, and he completed his master degree in biomedical engineering. And he is interested in processing of medical images, machine learning, and he is working here on a project, PhD project, which is run together with at the team Health Informatics led by Przemysław Korzeniowski and with Sheffield University. So his Kuba talk today will be about progress in his research. Well, as usual, if you would like to ask a question during presentation, please put them on chat or on questions and answer. And as usual, there will be a discussion after Kuba's talk. So, Kuba, screen is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction and for the screen. So my name is Kuba Chrobocinski. I am a PhD student, as Marian said, in healthcare informatics. It's health informatics team right now, and the clinical medicine School of Medicine and Population Health in the University of Sheffield under the supervision of Dr. John Fenner. And my second supervisor is Dr. Andrew Narakot. So the title of my presentation is From Gaming to Treating Patient, Clinical Challenge for Virtual Reality Systems. So let's take a brief look at the today's presentation outline, what I'm going to talk about. So first, I will just explain why and what, explain elements of hardware and software, some basic concepts to introduce you to the idea behind all of that. Next, I'll take a brief look through relevant literature, then explore a clinical context for the project, for the applications like that, and I present to you my research question. Next, we'll focus on collaboration aspect, tested environments, software elements, and studies that we've conducted on that topic. After that, there's a part about passive haptic keyboard. So the concepts that we've developed, the weak and strong sides, the design of the prototype, and the test of it. Next, I'll present you some conclusive statements and what are the future plans and directions for this project. So, introduction. On the graphs presented here, you could see the documents by year and documents by subject area when InScope presented with the phrases virtual reality surgery or medicine in the first one. So you can see a rising trend in the number of documents on that topic year to year. Right now, it's a bit lower for current year because it's not finished yet, but I'm sure it's gonna keep rising up. On the second slide, on the second chart, you can see that when searched for virtual and reality in Scopus, you can see that the medicine topic is fourth. So considering the first two are engineering and the computer science, that's quite high for that specific theme of research. So it's quite a big share of papers that are done on medicine. So let's briefly talk about what do we mean by virtual reality and what it can be and what it is in our current context. So before the head-mounted displays like Oculus platform, you could say that virtual reality was essentially everything that tries to mimic the reality in some computerized way, or just something that just mimics the reality. So, for example, high-level flight simulators and professional sim racing setups could be considered virtual reality systems. But what we do mean by that in our context is the systems that use the stereoscopic imaging, so the head-mounted displays like Oculus headsets. And you can see to the lower right an image that shows a mock image of clinicians exploring some sort of medical data in VR. And I think it is quite safe to assume that quite a lot of you have seen images like that around the internet. But I'm not sure that into the same quantity you've heard about the technology like that being really applied inside the clinical practice. So right now I want to discuss a little bit about why we think that the images like that are quite exciting and interesting, and the concept itself, it's worthwhile. So essentially, why virtual reality? So first of all, the stereoscopic vision, which is due to the fact that VR goggles have two screens, one for each eye, that show both the same image but from slightly different point of view as our real eyes do. So that produces the sense of depth, the sense of three-dimensionality, which is absent whenever we are using the flat screen. So the advantage here is that whenever we want to explore something that is really in 3D, we can do that in 3D. So we see a 3D object as it is in reality, essentially. Second is whenever, for example, I'm presenting to you something, a presentation like that, like I'm doing right now. If I have to if I want to point your attention towards a specific part, I have to use my mouse or some other pointer, which is not bad, but in comparison, if I would be presenting this presentation inside the VR environment to all of you from all around the world, I can just point my finger towards the element I want to. So this is not that big of an advantage in terms of flat elements like slides, but if we were trying to discuss a 3D object, that would make quite a difference, because you can point towards an element you want to ask, I can point you towards how it connects with another, and so on. So this is quite a big difference, and compared to conventional video call. The second one is connecting to the previous one, so data manipulation. If you want to talk about the 3D objects and being able to grab them, move them, annotate them with invisible, if with a marker that would stay in space, and that's just a bit more easy inside the VR. And the last one is the sense of immersion, the immersion and sense of presence, the feeling of being there. So whenever we are talking with another person in real life, we are in the same space that is conducive to work, and we are just essentially locked in the same space in some way. So whenever we are using flat screen presentations, there are a lot of different elements that are can be distracting and not entirely conducive to work. For example, whenever you're sitting inside your room, something can distract you very easily. But whenever you have the VR headset on, you're in this space you should be working in, be that the doctor's office or something entirely different. But you are there, and you are there to do work. So that can be somewhat beneficial for for given task. So if we know why virtual reality, then why we don't see why not, essentially. First, it can be quite a cumbersome experience to try to learn that. Just something different entirely. So weird controllers that you see for the first time in your life, and it's just the sense of being gimmick, and it's just a gaming device that can be something that can be limiting towards adoption in clinical practice. Second, which is a bit connected with the first one, especially with the controller part. So we have noticed that every time we are doing a presentation or a demo for someone with a virtual reality headset, it's quite often a difficulty for new users to find out, for example, which button do I grab with. So they just are confused on that. And confusion can turn into frustration, which can also be a limiting factor. Next, the difficult interpersonal interaction. So in terms of basic human movement, like pointing with the finger or gestures like that, this is advantageous, but also, for example, for something that is a bit more subtle, like facial cues or lip movement, it can be quite weird and difficult to, for example, gauge that if someone is finished talking, for example, and you just go, I thought you were finished, but you thought that because there was no good cue, good facial expression to notice you of that. And the last one is immersion breaking. So whenever there's a bad environment design in like extreme case, for example, to nail the point. For example, whenever you would be treating the patient or they're trying to diagnose them, you wouldn't do that on the top of a volcano, which in VR, for example, you could program an environment like that, but that wouldn't be a good design choice. So if the design is not working, it can really damage the immersion. And of course, technical elements, so lag glitches, all of that can induce motion sickness, which can limit the time that you would be able to use the environment for. Next, I would like to talk about the hardware that we took a look at when preparing for the, and we still do, essentially we're preparing for the project. So the headset that we are going to look at today are 4 headsets that are chosen mostly due to availability to us and experience of research team with those. So the first one is the Microsoft HoloLens 2, which is a augmented reality headset, so a quite different technology. We can overlay a rendered image on a see-through glasses, but it costs in the standard version around 3,900 euros. So it's quite an expensive device. So essentially, especially when in comparison with Oculus platforms. So the second one, which is the one that we've spent most time on working with, is the Quest 2 platform that came out the same year as the HoloLens. It's a gaming headset. It was mostly aimed at games, but it was very. It's still relatively cheap with adequate performance. And also the one thing that was different for this one when it came out was the fact that it could be used as a standalone device. It didn't have to be connected to the computer, so a bit more flexibility was offered. And still the cost of this is around 250 euros, so quite a lot less than HoloLens. Next headset is a model that was aimed at the professional market, like business meetings and design in companies. This was a MetaQuest Pro. It was priced at 1,200 euros, so quite a lot more also. But it seems that it didn't catch. So right now it's being discontinued. So this is not a choice for us. And the newest headset in the family is a Quest 3 platform that was released last October, so quite a recent development. It proposes quite a substantial technical jump from the Quest 2. Technical parameters, everything is in that terms higher, the resolution is higher, the capabilities are better. It presents a number of new or improved functionalities with price of 550 euros. It's still a relatively cheap platform to develop on. It needs to be also noticed that the market for VR headsets is quite dynamic, so the choices might change if something else comes up or different functionalities are needed. On this slide, I would like to talk a little bit about peripheral hardware for VR and different systems. So to the left, there are two lip motion controllers, which are the devices that allow for to collect the hand tracking data. So, for example, if you could use them in numerous cases with VR headset, but also there are use cases for touchless kiosks. For example, you don't have to touch any surfaces. That was quite important during the pandemic. So that was one of the use cases. And to the right, there are two haptic devices. So ones that provide you with feedback, with force feedback. They are obviously quite more expensive, but they do present unique qualities. So the first one is Sense Glove Nova. This is a haptic glove that is designed to be used with VR. It provides you with realistic feedback through the strings and motors hidden in the main body. So whenever you are grabbing an object, you feel as if it was really there. But despite those unique qualities, the price of it at the price of $4,500. That's something that just exceeds cost conditions of this project. So this has to be discarded as an idea. And the second device is the one that some of you might have tried for yourself in our laboratory, a Phantom Omni device. It's as you can see, a robotic arm-like device that can read exact position and orientation of the arm, and based on that and the virtual environment that is used, it can provide you with force feedback. So also this device is quite expensive, but due to experience and already developed simulators by our team leader Przemysław, this might in future find its way in the project. So after the hardware, there's an important choice of software environment that you are going to develop in. So 3D physics engines, there are three present here, two main choices essentially right now. So Unity and Unreal are the main choices. Those are the most popular physics engines / game engines. They present you with essentially all the tools you need for the virtual reality development. Both are very good choices, but right now we are using Unity due to experience of the team and familiarity with it. But in case it ceases to be a viable choice, a switch to Unreal is always considered. And the third one is quite an interesting choice. It's comparatively new. The NVIDIA Omniverse is an environment from NVIDIA that is quite focused on machine learning aspects and good integration with their graphic cards. make it an interesting choice, but due to its novelty and relative lack of support and good information on it, it's not yet a viable choice for now, at least. So briefly touch on the literature on the topics. So first, let's take a look at the paper titled "Collaboration in Virtual and Augmented Reality: A Systematic Overview." This paper explores a number of collaborative applications for the VR. The authors listed benefits and difficulties that they listed through their analysis for systems like that. So, for example, for the benefits, it is possible to join a specific environment independently of others in different time from a different place and continue working on a given task, despite being, for example, alone or just separated by a few time zones. Improved communication that can be attributed to unique to virtual reality visualization and immersion. Quite a specific point, the last one, but if a certain design is tested, user can obtain a perspective of someone different, for example, by using a filter that would make you see a world as a colorblind person would. So it provides quite a unique perspective on different things. And from the challenges, as mentioned before, motion sickness and eye fatigue is one of those for sure. The end of the complexity of environment. If it's too big, it can lead to errors of the user. They just can get confused inside one. Or if it's just too many elements, the system can crash on itself. So that has to be noted. And for the developers, one of the challenges is the fact that the field of technology is quite rapidly changing. So being up to date with everything can be a bit difficult from time to time. In the next paper, the next paper presents an attempt at producing a collaborative system for international collaboration between hospitals in Alabama and Vietnam. In this case, not virtual reality goggles, but iPads were used for that system. It was aimed specifically at endoscopic procedures, as surgeons use video feed anyway, so they would not lose any data in the in between the transfer, or at least not that much as in other surgeries they would. The solution was tested during endoscopic third ventriculostomy with choroid plexus coagulation. That was performed in a Vietnamese hospital and with assistance of remote expert surgeon in Alabama. And the authors claim that this relatively low cost and quite well scalable system could be beneficial for areas where there are shortage of experienced surgeons, so they could have an assist from more experienced personnel. The third paper on the collaborative aspect is titled "Collaborative Virtual Reality Environment for Liver Surgery Planning," and describes the system for laparoscopic surgery, but with collaborative aspect in mind. So a two-person team can use that concurrently. That was developed using a HTC Vive headset and one visible on the slides, and symbol joysticks that can also be visible there. Also, it was working in two modes. So first, the team would explore the data, CT scans in specific. They would plan the surgery in virtual reality, and then switch to testing their plan inside the simulated environment. Three surgeons were asked to provide feedback using questionnaires, and the system was rated positively in terms of usefulness and usability. So now I will switch to literature about haptics. So to provide the users with haptic feedback while typing, so they have their real keyboard, at least the feeling of a real keyboard inside the virtual reality. The author of this paper came up with quite a unique solution. So they measured the force and displacement of a real key press, and using that data, they fed it through a neural network that was used to produce as a digital signal for micro speakers that were attached to fingertips of user, which they would then mimic the vibration of a pressing and releasing the keys. So quite a complicated, quite unique solution to that problem. And the test participants expressed higher confidence in their ability to perform a key press with this feedback, as opposed to without it. So the next paper, titled QVRT, that's a virtual keyboard with haptic real-world representation. So that was a bit different way of developing the haptic keyboard, which was based on HTC Vive goggles with additional tracker from the Lantern system. That was attached to a keyboard and used to get its position relative to headset. And the lip motion controller was used to get the hand tracking data, so the user could see their hands and their keyboard in their respective positions inside fully immersed virtual reality environment. And after that, they were asked to the tests to compare those three that system was conducted. It was compared with baseline real life keyboard, a virtual keyboard but without visible hands, and a virtual keyboard with visible hands. And after that, also after the tests, the participants were asked to fill out the two questionnaires. So it was found that the tempo of writing in terms of VR techniques was lower, but the questionnaire showed that novelty and stimulation was higher than in baseline. So it could be possible to improve that with familiarization and training. And the last paper on the topic of haptics, systematic review of virtual haptics in surgical simulation, a valid educational tool, explored nine different studies with three different experience groups, so medical student, novices, and surgeons. They were trained using different haptic systems for different surgeries. Most of the studies provided a good feedback, it was noticed that haptics are beneficial, especially when inducted early in the education. And if the procedure is more complex, it also yields greater benefit to use the haptic training. Let me now talk about a little bit about the clinical aspect for the VR environments. So those are divided in our case into three main areas. So for immersion, it is fairly straightforward. So no lags, no high responsiveness is a must. It must be working seamless in that regard. And the environment must be well designed for the specific tasks that would clinicians participate in during using of the system. The second area is ease of use. So tasks for clinicians are usually of high importance and low tolerance for error. Since they deal with human life and health, it needs to be smooth and intuitive. So the room for error is needs to be as small as possible, and tasks should be as easy to achieve as possible inside such environment. Of course, it also needs to be easy to learn. Understandably, clinicians have quite low patience for weird, unproven solutions that might not work, especially if they take a long time to figure out. So a barrier in that regard should be eliminated to ease the adoption. And the last one, but probably the most important one, is the security of data. So whenever sharing medical data across devices, it must be well protected according to standards. And it can be noticed also that there are possible two cases in that regard. So if clinicians were to work on the same or different network, so that would probably be a little bit different. And to the research question. After all that information presented, it's time to pose a research question, aim of the project. So we believe that VR possesses qualities that are unique and beneficial enough to justify its adoption into medical practice, but it does possess unique challenges. Challenges that we believe are possible to overcome with correct implementation of intuitive interfaces, proper collaboration system, while meeting the security standards. So the aim of the project is to develop and test an application like that. So the evaluation of collaboration in virtual reality. Before we started to develop our own collaborative environment, it was concluded that it would be beneficial to explore a number of available commercial collaborative environments. So those three that are visible are well chosen. So Blue, Shapes XR, and Spatial. So the first one, Blue, is mained on mostly towards company use, so business meetings, etc. Multiple data presentation tools, file format support, including PDFs and documents. Easy slide presentations were definitely an advantage of that, but long loading times and not intuitive graphic interfaces were one of the disadvantages. For the Shapes XR, mostly was designed for prototyping and team collaborations and the design process. So strong points of that environment was multiple creation methods, very easy importing of files inside the environment, mixed reality elements, and Unity, quite close Unity integration. The problems were identified as the lack of support for PDF and text files and the presentation files. And the last one was Spatial. So that is an environment used mostly for interactive art experiences, games, and events. Very strong Unity integration, ability to make your own, essentially make your own experiences with use of spatial framework. From the downsides, the problems were inferior avatar quality, so lack of natural movements, lack of lip syncing. That was the problem for sure, and it needs the integration of Google account to import files inside the environment, which makes it a bit difficult, and also can be a problem in terms of privacy. So after that, when trying to design a VR environment, choice of not only the game engine but also a framework to provide the network capability needs to be made. So while a framework for that can be developed and tailored to specific needs, that would be development of one like that would be probably outside the scope and time frame of this project. So it was chosen to use an existing solution. First tried was Photon Pan, which is a third-party framework designed for Unity. This specific version is now deprecated, but was used due to extensive documentation and support. So, but the problem is that as a third-party software, the possible problems with different versions and conflicts like that could arise. So it was decided to switch to netcode for game objects, which is developed in-house by Unity. So the integration is more smooth, and the potential problems with different versions should be minimal. Now I would like to talk about pilot studies on the collaborative aspect that we've conducted. So the purpose of those studies was to test the technical aspects, if the environments that were produced would be stable and could be used without glitches or lags, and also to test the user experience aspects. So the usability of the environment, essentially, that would be used with that would be measured with questionnaires. And 3 studies were conducted. So Sano Sheffield training study, medical physics outreach event study, and MPY 205 study. So the first one is Sano Sheffield training. That was conducted last year during the Sano PhD students' visit to University of Sheffield for the training. During the workshops, and environment constructed in ShapesXR was presented to participants, where they were given a presentation on a ring vortex phantom, which is a quality assurance device for ultrasound and magnetic resonance. After that experience, they were asked to fill out a short version of user experience questionnaire, which had 8 questions and was scored from 1 to 7. Here's the table with summary of the results. The study provided valuable feedback, but problems with given questions were noticed. So the ambiguity of questions and vagueness was noticed to be a problem when it came to interpretation of the scores. The lower scores in terms of complexity-related questions was also noticed, but that was a problem that was expected. As for some of the participants, that was the first time of using the VR system like that. And relating the limiting factors, the number of participants was really a problem. So the next one was a medical physics outreach event. That was conducted during a medical physics outreach event at the University of Sheffield for A-level physics students. A number of groups of approximately 5 participated in a collaborative experience that was developed specifically using Unity and PhotonPan. They were given a presentation on MRI machine and the principles of physics of the MRI. After that, they were asked to voluntarily fill out a 3-question long questionnaire. The number of questions was due to time constraints for the event, so it had to be short, and was based on system usability scale questionnaire. But it was a bit modified to eliminate the ambiguity, and the scores were given on a 5-point scale. So this is a screenshot of a VR environment that was designed for this study. Here you can see the summary of the results for the specific questions. Since this environment was purpose-built and was used multiple times during the event, one of the purposes of this study was to really test the stability of the solution, and fortunately no problems with disconnections or lag was reported. It has to be noted that all of the headsets used were also on the same Wi-Fi network, so that was the same network type of situation. And in terms of questionnaire feedback that was on a 5-point scale, and the score averages were all the score averages were above 4.4, which is a promising result. increased specificity of questions proved to be a good choice for the interpretation of the results. But also it has to be noted for the future research that the target audience was quite a big one, quite a different one from our desired target audience. And the last one was the MPY 205 study, that was the study that took place during classes with second-year undergrad students of biomedical engineering, physics, and medical physics majors. One of the classes touched on quality assurance of X-ray machines, during which an X-ray suit, a visual X-ray suit, was used to present the components of X-ray tube and its assembly. And the environment was also developed using Unity and Photon. Collaborative and solo sessions took place where they first learned from a mentor about the build, how the X-ray tube is built and how the assembly is going on. And then they had the chance to test their knowledge inside the solo environment, where they assembled the tubes themselves without external help. And after that, they were asked to fill out a questionnaire on Google Forms with answers being given on the 5-point scale. So this is a screenshot from the environment that was designed. The avatars can be seen as quite basic ones, but it was a bit easier for now, at least. As you can see, those are the results. It's quite a longer questionnaire. The time constraints weren't so strict for this in this case. So there are 4 parts: the cooperative experience part, solo experience part, general system part, and demographic information. So cooperative was only about the cooperative experience. Solo was about solo, and general system was the questions that applied to both of those. We can see that the experience with virtual reality quite varied between participants. It is noted that in the question about the interaction with other people inside the environment, the score is relatively low. That might be due to the design of the avatars. They are just not expressive, probably enough. And the question about technical support can be also seen as quite low, and that was a bit expected. But that's one of the things that needs to be addressed in the future. And now I switch to evaluation of passive haptic keyboard for the system. So first, I would like to introduce the idea about the potential use cases. So first, of course, basic use case, of course, would be to have the keyboard available to you to take notes during a meeting in a familiar way. That's the first stop, let's say. But once it's implemented, we can take an inspiration from how people do their home flight simulators setups. So they put different panels with different buttons around the chair, and for example, then put on the VR headset. So they do not only have the haptic feedback for all of the devices, but they also are immersed inside the environment like that. And the buttons and all the joysticks don't have to match exactly the looks of the specific aircraft, but they can be a bit different, but they will still work well. Yeah. So that's the same principle that we would like to apply in the future for a haptic keyboard for VR environment. So once you have a VR keyboard available to you, you can make it look inside the VR as anything you essentially want. So it can be transferred to an EKG machine, an ultrasound machine, or MRI control panel, or so on. And using that one device, i.e. keyboard, you could have medical personnel train on multiple different devices with just one keyboard. So that would be future targets. So first, I would like to talk about the different design concepts for that solution that we've thought about. So the first one was a pass-through window, which is a capability of MetaQuest headsets, which was evolving from the Quest 2 through Quest Pro to Quest 3, which is now quite high fidelity pass-through. So this capability is just essentially passing through from the cameras, from the external cameras of the headsets, the feed to the screens, and you can overlay on top of that visual elements, as you can see on the screenshot included. So to enable the use of keyboard, you would have a rectangular plane with pass-through view on top of your real keyboard. That's probably one of the easiest to do solutions. But even for Quest 3, there are some warping of image visible. Possible problem is also a drifting of this pass-through window. Whenever you're turning your head, you can lose the exact match. So that's one of the problems, and also the immersion breaking and lack of flexibility is also one of those. So you just see your own keyboard. You cannot make it look like something different, for example. So that's one of the problems. The second concept was to use manual calibration. So the user would just press individual keys, and the system would match the position of the tip of the finger to a specific key and render them inside the virtual reality. So that would produce a layout of the keyboard. And you could later save it and use it for later, but also that the problem is that the good tracking of the fingertip is required to
Kuba, well, we have a problem with we cannot hear you. Something wrong?
Hello?
No, it's okay. Please go on.
Okay. I know what happened. So where I was cut off?
Just one sentence. So
Okay.
start. Well, if you could start describing the slide, it will be okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just continue from the beginning of this slide. So the second concept was to detect individual key presses and match the position of the key with the position of the detected fingertip from the hand tracking device. That requires quite a precise tracking. So it's a challenge on its own, and but the user could produce their layout of their own keyboard that could be saved and used for later. And also that could accommodate different keyboard makes and models, but there might be some specific cases that present a problem. For example, like the one visible on the slide where it's a bit tilted and some of the buttons are a bit warped, let's say. That might be a problem in that case. And the last concept, which is currently chosen as the main focus, is to use a 3D model of a keyboard. So that would be a similar solution to the one presented in the literature descriptions, where you use a Oculus controller that would be put into a slot that would be made from that would be 3D printed, and that would hold also a keyboard in place. And you use, for example, bought or found online or produced yourself a 3D model of the keyboard, and the position of your real keyboard would be provided through the controller. So that's the solution that's a bit more precise. But also it has a bit more prerequisites. So the 3D print and the model of the keyboard are required for it to work, or at least physical or the layout of the physical keyboard is needed. Yep. So right now I will talk about the prototype that we've tested of that concept. So there's a picture of the prototype to the right. There's a keyboard and a 3D printed mount with controller in it, and also added on a wooden stand leap motion controller for hand tracking. On the bottom picture, you can see the view from the leap motion and how it tracks the hands. And it needs to be, for the optimal performance, the field of view of the controller needs to be emptied from unnecessary objects, and as even lighting as possible on the keyboard should be provided as well. So the test environment for that was built in Unity game engine, and we measured positions of the tip of the finger relative to pressed key position. And the results were the distances were translated from virtual to real using the dimensions of the 3D model and its real counterpart. And the errors were recorded in all three directions. So X, Y, and Z with specific forward, backwards, up and down, and left and right directions. The highest magnitude of errors is seen in the up and down dimensions, and that would be that was consistent with what we've seen during the testing. So it was visible when the finger was sinking into the keyboard, and it could really throw off the precision because you couldn't see your fingertip relative to the key. So that was one of the problems, but the problem is also that the pattern is not uniform. There is some sort of warping the farther out you are in the field of view, but it's something that can be mitigated with change of the setup or addition of some calibration step and or virtual space warping, for example. Okay, let me go into a conclusion statements. So, as stated, the unique ways of visualization and interaction that give increased sense of presence and data exploration are quite big advantages of VR compared to usual video conferences. An environment like that should be conducive towards collaboration and provide tools to do it intuitively and effectively in terms of interaction with other people and the environment also. Enabling the user to use their own physical keyboard inside such an environment can be really beneficial, not only in terms of note taking, but also in training with different devices. And also the medical context needs to be well understood when providing an application like that. So the choice of the hardware and software was made. So the MetaQuest platform is one chosen for that, and the Unity game engine, both chosen due to the familiarity with those and experience. And the MetaQuest platform is also chosen because of the price point. So the cost benefit ratio is as favorable toward adoption as we can. Both hardware and software choices have their different elements, different challenges. If there cease to be a viable solution for now, the changes are possible. Right now, the prototype work is conducted on both collaborative and haptic. Collaborative is almost finished right now, and the haptic aspects are soon to be. And the next step is the integration of both. And we'll go through the further work. So, for possible future directions, the most important for us is the multidisciplinary team. So that's the most demanding application. Focus on user-friendly design, security of data, and the process must be an iterative process with input from the clinicians. Also, one of the interesting things for us is informed consent aspect. So bringing the patients into the virtual reality, showing them their own data and explaining them in more detail how the procedure is going to look. The second possible scenario is utilizing collaborative environment for medical training. Passive haptic interface would simulate the control panel for the chosen device. Could be done with mentoring or group training. Also, integration of large language models for artificial mentoring is possible. It's a bit less demanding in terms of data security than the clinical solution, so that's one of the upsides. Next one is about commercial demonstrators. So that would be, for example, for the Ring Vortex Phantom device mentioned previously. Presenting a device like that might have some unique qualities, and the possibility of that is being explored. And last application would be teaching and education. So exploring patient cases or medical devices, or just explaining the procedures inside the VR with tutoring of a mentor. That's the last possible direction. And thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Kuba, for this presentation with many details. Now we have time for questions, answers, for discussion, and some suggestions about your future work. Well, we have Jan Argasiński ready to enter into this part of seminar. Janku, well.
Yes. So, in the title of your presentation, I was promised gaming. So my question will be about gaming, because gaming, game design tell us a lot about how to create immersive software, immersive situations in which you can put your users or players. And of course, you use games technologies in your project, but do you use also, or do you plan on using also like the ideas from interaction design, game design in your projects? Because this is like resource that is often omitted, but it's very rich, and I think it would be nice to check it. So what's your view about on that?
So absolutely, that's something that we are considering to use, especially also the irony of using gaming equipment. It has some weak sides and strong sides. So what you just said, that's a very strong side of using that environments and that technology. So absolutely, that's something that we are we're gonna implement in the future. But right now we just focus on getting that off the ground and having the elements ready.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, the next participant of the discussion is Jose Souza. Jose, go on, please.
Hello, Kuba. So thank you for the nice presentation. I just have some, so I have a little bit of the same doubts that Jan just mentioned, but from one side is you mentioned gaming. From the other side, I don't understand on your research questions. And then you came out with the keyboard and the emulation of a virtual keyboard using your physical keyboard as a input device. So can you clarify that? So for once, can you clarify a little bit more your research questions and how they relate with the output that you are describing?
Yes, so one of the limiting factors that we've noticed whenever discussing the virtual reality systems...
Excuse me, if you could go to the slide with these research questions, maybe it will it will help better understand what Jose is asking about.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, one of the limiting factors whenever we were discussing with clinicians applications of virtual reality in clinical practice was the ability to take notes. So that was one of the problems, and current way, like the standard way of inputting text inside the VR is very slow and can be very tiresome and cumbersome, essentially. So what we would like to do is provide an intuitive interface, and familiar interface should be added probably here in terms of a keyboard that just enables people to use to take notes very fast and in the familiar way inside the virtual reality environment. Hopefully that answers.
No, it got me more confused even. So because here you mentioned that it's concluded. So it's quite interesting for me because a research question normally is an extension about what is known. So if you conclude already this, what would be the contribution that you are bringing? Okay, so that's what makes me confusing. And then designing, developing, and testing, an environment can be a research question, but needs to have, a goal, for what? So it got me confusing in the end. So that's why I asked it.
Okay, so with the conclude, I might have used probably a wrong word. I should probably rephrase that. But so for the end goal of having an application like that would be to improve the planning and the diagnose process in remote setting, but also we consider that a system like that might be even useful in terms of on-site collaboration.
Okay. Yeah. So you can. So my suggestion would be that you reshape this research question into something like, can virtual reality environments empower the access to users to take notes in very critical or very difficult environments? That could be a research question, and then the thing that you just described, they can make sense under that. So that's one thing.
Okay.
So the other thing is, how is the use of voice, dictation, using voices in the virtual reality environments? Like, I'm just asking this out of curiosity because I don't know, if it is if this system that you just mentioned can be balanced or complemented by the use of voice, So I don't know.
Yes, so that's one of the things we are also keeping in mind in terms of, for example, note taking, so voice recognition. and voice typing. One thing we are a bit worried about in that case is the security concerns. Just interaction between people in collaborative environment, whenever everyone is trying to speak or type their notes with voices, that might be a bit difficult.
Yeah, so yeah, that's one of the problem, that when you have a collaborative environment, everyone speaking at the same time or using different voices becomes a problem for the system. But tackling that, from that perspective will be an amazing challenge, because that problem is not solved. How can you use different virtual environment where different voices are sharing their knowledge? Can you develop, for example, a foundational model for that? So that would be quite interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, many thanks, Joseph, for participation in this discussion. Now we have Maciej Malawski, our director, in the queue. Maciej, please go on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for a nice presentation. I also had some similar comments about this research question, that it's would be nice to make it more specific, and also I think it's important to emphasize that this keyboard, seems to be something like a very generic device, so I'm a bit surprised that it's not already done or solved by the others. But I understand that having this virtual keyboard inside, let's say, a surgical operation room or something like that can be really a challenge. So I think it's important to say that this has to be really specific to this medical setup. But it was a comment, and then a question is also about this evaluation methodology, because I think you have shown at least two types of evaluation. One was these studies where people do, you have experience with people, and do some surveys when you gather feedback from the real people about their experience. And then the second one is about really doing some measurements where you can, for example, see how this keyboard, how the system really detects the right keys on the keyboard and so on. So the question is, which of these are more important? Which of these you plan to actually conduct in the future? Because I think this automatic ones with this engineering, more automated measurements seem to be more, let's say, maybe simpler, but also more reliable. But also, on the other hand, these experiments or tests on people are also important to get the real feedback from the users. So can you comment a bit on this testing methodology?
Yes, absolutely. So the most important would be probably those feedback survey studies, as it's a system that is focused on being friendly for the user. And just testing like the precision of the keyboard is one of the steps towards the ease of use for the user. So the final element would be good feedback from the clinicians, essentially, and also having that can improve the iterative process of changing and improving the solutions that we come up with. So I would say that the survey studies are more important than the technical ones in that case.
And do you see like challenges in terms of gathering a big enough group of clinicians, or do you think maybe we should start already planning to do some, let's say, recruitment from Sano, or do you have already kind of planned these steps?
So one of the most obvious connections for us is to utilize our friends in Sheffield. We have a bit more easy access to clinicians for that, but yes, that's for sure and limiting factor as the time of the medical professionals is quite precious. Yes, that's for sure a limiting factor, and but right now we are trying to find out as many connections as we can, and after the system will approach the stage of being ready to get tested, then we'll really try to structure and find out a bit more potential participants.
Yeah, because this is, I think, also important for this kind of promotion activity, to invite potential doctors, doctors who can be potentially interested in this, and also promote the research that we are doing, at Sano. So this can be a kind of broader activity. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have a person who I expected that will take part in this discussion. So we have our postdoc Natalia Lip in queue. Natalia, could you please?
Hi, Marian. Hi, Kuba. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Kuba, thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I would like to continue the thread that Maciek started about your methodology. And I raised my hand because of Maciek's comment, but I really like your answer. I completely agree with Kuba that the surveys, the user testing is more important in this context, because we're talking about collaborative virtual environments. So technology that is designed for humans to interact, to collaborate, to meet, to, well, make friends. So we have to include people in our design. And I would like to, Kuba, suggest something. There is a new trend in human-computer interaction research in VR prototyping, and it is called participatory design or co-design. It's I think it's a Scandinavian idea of a human-computer interaction methodology, but it is to invite your end users to the process of design. And you actually did it, and you want to do this iterative user feedback gathering, but it's not enough. I think you cannot just give people surveys and look at the results. Oh, it's above average or it's below average. You have to gather feedback like, do you like this keyboard? Why not? And only by in-depth interviews about asking people about some flows or their ideas, so maybe arrange a brainstorming session with your end users, you will actually, you can invent something new. So that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very important contribution to this discussion. Many thanks. Kuba, would you like to add something?
I would just like to say that this is a very nice idea from you, Natalia. I think I will bring it up on my next meeting with my supervisor.
Mm, Okay. Maćku, you have still your hand up. Are you willing? No. Okay. Well, I don't know, because we have also John with us here. John, if you would like to comment on this presentation of Cuba. Well, I know that you are busy, but okay. Well, would you like to move to the slide which presents your future work? Because I would like to. Yes. So I think that you have here. It's really something which is very multidisciplinary topic. But there was one slide with this artificial intelligence stuff. So probably it was the next slide. No? Oh yes.
This one, yeah.
Yes. So this is something. Well, so first of all, I think that it's what you have already done and what you plan is a very broad area of research, and probably I think there will be not so much time to put this into one PhD thesis. So probably it's at that moment there is a point where probably you should, let's say, decide what is the most important and what is the most, let's say, innovative for this type of research. And I think that it this type of let's say elements which were already mentioned by Natalia, and also I think that this bullet which is about possible integration of large language models for artificial mentoring and knowledge access, probably it is something what can be one of let's say, sign of novelty in your research?
Sorry, could you repeat the last few words? Broke up a little bit.
Well, I think that it seems that this possible integration of these language models for artificial mentoring and knowledge access, probably it seems to be a source of innovation in your research, and maybe it will be better to somehow to concentrate on this at that moment.
This is something that right now we are analyzing what the directions, and so essentially the future directions presented here are mostly dependent on the, for example, the access to the clinicians and all the other things. But the integration with those language models could be possibly done even for the most multidisciplinary team case. So if they need some, for example, encyclopedia advice or knowledge like that, that could be integrated to this case as well. But right now, I'm afraid, in terms at least of the PhD, it might be difficult, but we will see how much time is available to us besides the developing of the environment itself. Maybe some cooperation with someone that knows a bit more about AI, for example, would be beneficial, but that's something to discuss.
Well, and a question, well, just about what type of journals are appropriate for publications of research results from like this? What are the journals which you aim to publish, or you have already published something?
Right now we try to publish on the ICCS, but due to time constraints, the article was not really didn't really meet the standards. So we will try to get it revised, enhanced, and we want to publish it somewhere else. So one of the main, for example, conferences on the topic that we could publishing is the Human-Computer Interaction International Conference. So that would be one of the biggest ones. And essentially all the papers and journals that deal with the topic of human-computer interaction, that's the main aim for us.
Okay, well, many thanks. I do not see, I hope that I see all participants. I do not see more questions or suggestions, so many thanks for your talk. Many thanks for everybody who decided to take part in discussion after the talk. Thank you very much, and you are kindly invited to the next seminar, which will be in a week from now, on next Monday. It will be one of the talk from this series of presentation of research by PhD students at Sano. Thank you very much, and see you in a week from now.
Thank you very much.